currency. PR, as we see today, has entered its fourth era. When PR gained public acceptance, it used to pursue publicity. And when media had huge stronghold and influence on how communications shaped policy and businesses, media relations defined PR in the second era. And when we saw the impact of media and other forces on reputation management, also defined the kind of strategy that media professionals intentionally pursued in the third era. Today, it is the era of strategic value creation. It's not that publicity, media relation, reputation management are all out of the window, but they all come together, coalesce into ensuring that all the activity actually add up to enterprise value for organization, or whether you're working for government. And why is PR such a big deal today? And how has it become such a big influence on enterprise value? That would be as a result of social media, especially, that have brought over information overload. We're also in an era where we no longer trust institutions, we no longer trust government, we no longer trust media, corporations, and this is not a local thing. This is now a global phenomenon. Edelman barometer, trust barometer actually captures this if you are a fan of that report. We also have this technological disruptions that has introduced AI, algorithm, real-time media circles that completely shape how we communicate, how we set agenda for discussion, how reputations are managed, and how crises involve. So let's talk about PR, why PR is actually in its golden era, especially from the business side of the world. Over the last 10 years, we've seen huge demand and the right ticket being written for PR services. So from 2015, the PR global industry was commanding 64 billion. Today, we've reached about 106 billion as of 2025, and it is projected that by 2031, we would have reached 161 billion. That is almost 100 billion added to a market over the last, from 2015, and expected to hit that level in 2031. The only time we saw a huge dip in the market was COVID, which was expected. But again, it was a slight dip from 82 billion to 76 billion. But what was interesting is how quickly the market also recovered. It didn't just recover, it went straight up above its pre-COVID era to 88 billion from 82. So demand has been growing at a compounded average growth rate of 7.2 billion. So just for context, most global markets are growing at less than 5 and less than 6. So we are seeing an industry that is growing very fast. This growth has been led by intelligence and analytics. So the more agencies or practitioners delve into analyticals and digital PR, the more they earn, the more they command the right pay tickets. We saw that the zone with the biggest growth is Asia Pacific, who are doing about 8.2, and Nigeria with 11.2% growth in media and communication by 2024 is actually Africa's biggest growth market for communications and media. So this is just evidence that this is a golden era, and the world is spending more and more on those who are building trust. And we are the custodian and the steward of that reality. Why is reputation such a big capital? I identify 5 capital that we need to look at, that organization we always prioritize, which is the financial capital, the profit and loss, human capital, those driving the organization, technological capital, that is what is driving innovation, and intellectual capital, protection of innovation, and a proprietary interest. But today, what is amplifying all these assets is the reputation capital. That is how much reputation has come to stay, and it has become a big deal in boardrooms. And why is that? I mean, I'm still building up to an evidence-based understanding of why reputation management has reached its golden era. We're practically mining gold now. Research has shown us that 35% of total market capitalization of listed stock in big markets, and this research by IARA and AMO research looked at 200 companies in 15 stock markets and realized that 35% of their market value was purely based on reputation, not just business fundamental, and that's huge. In fact, part of the research shows that a 1-point improvement actually adds $500 million to the competition, the corporate asset equity of a listed organization. And 90% of enterprise value among large companies were derived from intangible assets, so brand, relationship, reputation. What that means is that boardrooms and investors are beginning to understand that it is not enough for all other capital that I touched on earlier on to be in the right place, because reputation alone can wipe out 35% of your value in a second. And so we are no longer just in an organization now to share information. We are there as part of the enterprise value. You are part of decision making. You are part of upholding what going concern, and you are part of upholding long-term value for any organization. So, and what is driving this is not just the regular PR as we know it, but strategic PR. And strategic PR is a move from legacy PR that was defined by press releases and media pitches, reactive crisis first, strategy later kind of moves, measured by clips, count, and coverages, operates in edge of business decisions. And we were just about telling the story when the product is launched, when an initiative is out, And so we were there to just support. That supporting role has been completely overtaken by strategic PR, which is all about narrative architecture. So it's not just about whether to write, but how you framework your narrative, and it's very key. And when you framework your narrative, it becomes important that you know which kind of narrative you shouldn't go into. So you have forbidden sins. So you can decide that your organization is not going to veer into matters that involve politics, that involve gender, that involves certain social nuances. You just have to know. And because in doing that, you understand that your narrative influences enterprise decision. And I'll give you an example. We did a job in Ghana and we wrote a press release. Everything about that press release was right. And at 12 a.m. Nigeria time, somebody called us to say a Ghanaian minister had just picked the news that had appeared in one of the leading papers in Ghana, and that he didn't like the tone of the news. And there was nothing wrong other than that we were Nigerians. We sounded very Nigerian in the press release, and we sounded a bit confident. So confidence here, but in Ghana, a bit cocky. And so we had to withdraw that entire press release. We have to withdraw the press release from the entire media houses before 6 a.m. So there was nothing wrong. But now we understand that narrative can shift even diplomatic conversations, not talk of business conversations. So in that, as a result of that, you want to be more proactive in shaping the environment before the environment shapes you, like it did for us at 12 a.m. You want to measure business outcome. You want to sit at the heart of decision making, not when the product is launched, but before the product is even when the product is being conceived at development process or stage. You want to build the story before the event demanded it. So you are extremely strategic. You want to announce strategic intent, not when the strategy is out. You want to join policy conversations before policy shapes the business environment. And that is what strategic PR is now. It is actually an intelligence function, one that actually deliberately guide the organization, the brand, or the personality, or the corporation through a minefield of social activism and uprising. I didn't say any other kind of uprising, but you know what the kind of uprising that are going on social media. Reputation is now an asset class. A single narrative failure can erase years of financial gain. That is no longer a story. It's sitting very much on data sets. A well-polished story can unlock market, which is also true. And it can win you capital, it can win you partnership. So the boards are beginning to take notice. 63% of company market value, like I said earlier on, is attributable to reputation value, and 141 days is what it takes, an average duration of a corporate reputation crisis. So we are seeing speed and the value of how reputation is shaping the asset conversation. And reputation is about trust, right? And it has become that economic currency, that economic capital, which is defining competition, especially in this golden age of our 21st century. So we are seeing markets ready to pay higher value for organizations they just trust. One of the trick when I speak to CEOs is when I tell them to name big organizations that we invest in, if they come to Nigerian market. So I named Mercedes-Benz, Dangote, Apple, Tesla, and everybody seems to just go to Tesla. And when they are done, and I tell them, what if you realize none of you just asked me whether any of these companies have delivered profitability in the last 5 years, which is the fundamentals that guide and influence how you vote with your capital. But this well-drilled executive will first of all vote instinctively on the right reputation, right? Right reputation also attracts talent, right? There was an organization that I used to be in that was Nigerian-led, and we saw people leaving IOCs. By the time we had built very strong reputational capital, they were leaving IOCs to come and drive the strategy because we're very good at communicating our vision and our dream, and we position as a very audacious organization, and people wanted to join that dream. And for organizations that have very strong reputation, they are able to get out of very tricky zones. So when there is a crisis, people tend to believe you when you respond, and when you respond professionally. And like I talked about, you're able to even take that equity and slap a premium pricing on your product, and because people can then trust you. I mean, Dubai built huge reputation, right? And people will pay anything and without even blinking and go and do a holiday there, right? That is how much reputation can actually encourage premium pricing power. So in today's golden era, what are the competencies that define a modern PR professional? Strategic intelligence. It's not enough for you to know your product anymore. You have to understand the DNA and the working of that product. You have to understand exactly what the consumer sees. And so you have to have the full enterprise intelligence around the organization. You have to have full enterprise intelligence around the industry. You have to have full enterprise strategic intelligence around policy conversations. I remember one of my clients, we were meeting the top marketing director for the first time. And the moment he met with me, I thought we were going to discuss market. The first thing the director discussed with me was what the policy, a new policy that had just been introduced into the market. And he wanted to see if I would hold a conversation for 1 hour. And interestingly, it was already a conversation that I was already part of. So I consult for that industry. I'm also a member of the regulators committee that is influencing new policy initiative in that space, because I have to know what is going on just for myself and for my client. So it's not enough for you to do media relations now. You have to do you have to push that level of stakeholder management to the regulators as well. Data fluency. You have to be able to understand that 50% of 20 is not the same as 50% of 1,000. You have to understand clearly how to craft and how to see through numbers, because numbers can be thrown at you to shape your narrative and to shape to shape nuances. You have to be able to see through that. You have to understand data very quickly. And you have to be you have to be a mastery. You have to be at mastery level in terms of how the digital world works. Understand how algorithms work. Understand how powerful the microblogging is to global conversations, right? Let me tell you how powerful that is. When Trump bombed Iraq for the first time, their nuclear site, the announcement wasn't via diplomatic channels. It was on Truth Social, his own and his followers' social media handle. That is an aberration. But that was acceptable. Every global media went there and picked the news. And we are seeing today that if you go to Twitter, the first three topics shape the narrative for the day, shape the narrative for the afternoon, shape one for no matter what time it is, no longer the mainstream media. So I hear there are organizations that tell me, Odion, I don't want to be on Twitter. But 90% of crises we've managed this year have been amplified on Twitter. So you don't have a choice. You have to face it. In fact, that is the reason why the boardroom is trusting you. That is the reason why those at the director level of decision making will be trusting you. So I talked about stakeholder diplomacy earlier on, and you have to navigate those complex spaces between regulator and those shaping conversation across business divides. And you have to be a narrative craftsman. You have to master that. And this is not spin. This is speaking in such a way that your tone remain professional and command market leadership, and yet build trust without losing humility. It's a complex nuances, a complex mix of all sort of decision-making touch points, but you have to master it. And then, most importantly, you have to have a business acumen. You have to know exactly how business works. You have to understand the processes and the policies. You have to know exactly what shapes profits and what shapes risk. You have to understand all the risk as a PR person, all the risk, and what level of weight is assigned to them. A financial risk doesn't have the same level as of weighting as legal risk or as reputational risk. You have to know what those are. That, for me, is what makes the full package of whom a modern PR professional is, especially in this golden era. And so tomorrow's communicator must be a strategist, a risk advisor. You cannot advise on what you do not know. A behavioral scientist, a data interpreter, a reputational architect, a CEO counselor. And this is not a shortcut. It is a must. It is a leadership discipline. So I'm going to, these are my kind of recommendations. What today's practitioners must prioritize. For private sector, this will be reputational risk. You have to have a reputational risk dashboard. Like I said earlier on, you have to know all your risk. And you have to have a dashboard. You must know when there's an issue and when to deal with them and how quickly you can respond. You have to understand the executive must have strong social inclinations. I remember one of my CEO that we were managing, he was going to give a speech somewhere, and his proverb, very good proverb, but it didn't match today's thinking. So the thinking is very sage, but as a PR, as a CEO, it has to be forward-looking. It has to be forward thinking. So he couldn't. I told him, unfortunately, you can't use that proverb. So you have to have a strong social inclination as it aligns with today's reality. You have to have a workplace aura. There are some workplaces that are toxic, and if you think that ends there, your every work colleague is a potential risk, because they can go on Twitter and just say and talk about terrible bosses, terrible workplaces, and you can trend just because of your workplace aura, and you can lose reputation, and you can lose ground on investment. You have to understand your legality and policy. and I'll talk about just small legality. If you are going to have your staff on your website to understand what that legal requirement is, because in those days of just having a picture of your staff and putting them on the website, it's gone. So you have to have clear policy on who is speaking, because today's workforce think that they are spokespeople as well. And they will create content around your organizational work environment without your permission. So you have to be proactive ahead of ensuring that there are policies that safeguard the organizations from such risk. You have to have a realignment of your corporate culture to prevailing culture. I remember one organization that put out an ad, and it's a Nigerian company, and said, we are looking for somebody, and he or she can be, or he or she will require this level of work experience. And I remember that because they were big organizations, their communication was global. And people were saying, why don't you add they or them? And they were dragged for it. So you have to be culturally sensitive, especially because your conversation can go global, where your understanding of what gender can even mean can become problematic. You have to understand ethics and governance. You have to know what is right. And ethics and governance is even very interesting, because people can sense it even before they enter your organization. So now we are seeing crisis emanating from interviews. Somebody was interviewed, he knows he's not going to get the job, or they know they will not go back there, and they make it a Twitter conversation, or they go to Glassdoor and have those conversations. And people, and then just people don't want to go to your organization. And yet they've not even had clear touch points and experience with your organization, but just your ethics and governance can already have impact on your reputational risk. And then business fundamentals. I have spoken a lot about understanding how your business functions and where its place is in the value chain and in the industry. What professionals need or must prioritize if you are working in public sector? Again, this is very key, because, and I put this as high priority, because I speak to a lot of those managing government and tell me, oh, we don't even have an account on Twitter. Unfortunately, they are discussing your affairs on Twitter. You don't be afraid of the place. There's a whole lot of trick and mastery of how to deal with, navigate those conversations. That you are not there doesn't mean you will not be part of the conversation, and that your reputation will not be completely destroyed in those conversations. Policy conversation. I think we must move from the governor and the wife was here, the commissioner commissioned here today, to getting to get the citizen understand policy, make this policy initiative more conversational, more humanized. We must move from press release spamming to digital conversation around policy initiatives. And I talked about trust building, but if you notice, I didn't just say trust building, I said trust building craftsmanship. Because even the way those who work in the private sector respond to sometimes very innocuous inquiries or a query of a service, it's as if you've known the person before. There's a lot of anger around it. But sometimes it's not that difficult to actually take somebody who is very angry off a social media space and deal with their issue. All you need is the discipline of how to do it, and be real, be truthful on how to deal with it. Ethics and governance. People are measuring exactly how all the people working in your space that you are managing are behaving in terms of ethics and in terms of understanding the rule of law. They are watching and they are discussing it. And whenever they discuss it, you are losing points on trust. And remember, trust is the currency for survival, whether you are a government or you are a corporate or a corporation. Citizen stewardship. You must understand that once you work in the public sector, that you're a steward for citizens' rights, for citizens' well-being. To be sincere, right now, very few public sectors will pass that test. But this is the space where you win your principals' trust and make them understand that the PR they used to know, where you're just managing information, has moved to where you are managing strategic intent and strategic outcomes. I dedicated 2 pages to public sector because that is a place where I see less strategic PR happening, and the golden era isn't waiting for them. So I'm looking at recommendation at around 2 touch points. The first is the service touch points. Service touch points, because for every time we step out of our house, we speak, the shared spaces is highly regulated. I can run or speed or drink or shake or make noise in shared spaces without being regulated. And who are those that ensure this regulation apply? They are the law enforcement. But we know that if you go to social media today and just say Nigerian police or Nigerian custom, or these stories that you hear, we don't want you to make, we don't want you to, you will not be proud of being a Nigerian. And if you are the one managing the PR of such organization, you have a lot of work cut out for you. So you must see exactly to how law enforcement is behaving. You must ensure that service delivery is exceptional. Again, there is a failing here. The golden era is not accepting this. There's ethics, corruption, and not following the rules, human rights and dignity. I'll give you, I mean, why is it acceptable in Lagos? I'm afraid for anybody that takes public sector, public transportation in Lagos. The vehicles, it scores 0 on dignity. The doors don't close. The conductor is having his own wash and pit over your head. The chairs do not have paddings. Every compartment and is a contraption of safety issues. Lagos State has to look at, you can't say you are 21st century and downfall the way it is your transportation touch point, right? So let's go to infrastructure touch points. Your infrastructure must be a standard for leadership and sustenance and best practice. Our roads are poorly marked. I still joke about where you are going on Bagada, we show the Bagada Expressway and you are going to Victoria Island, and the sign says Lagos. If you are new in Lagos, how would that not confuse any new driver in Lagos? And Lagos is a metropolitan and a hub for international business. So if I'm new, can I drive myself around Lagos like I would have done in Beijing or in the US or in London? If we are thinking that we are comparable to these mega cities, then we must mark our infrastructure right. If you are a strategic advisor on communication, please, your PR isn't about spamming PRCDs. It's about understanding that Ikorodu Road, especially the key arteries, Ikorodu Road, Third Milan Bridge, Mobolaji Park Anthony, Allen Avenue, key roads that a visitor will pass from airport to business district are comparable to anywhere. I mean, one of the biggest ways South Africa mock us is that is our infrastructure. So we have to understand that they bear reputational risk. Aesthetics and best practices. I'm sure we already understand how clean and aesthetic our public spaces are. Safety and quality, I spoke about downfall earlier on, and other realities. Responsibility and consideration. This for me was best during Fashola's time. We used to just wake up and discover that the roads have been fixed. They do it when we are asleep, not while we are going to work. That is consideration. Yes, we want you to fix the road, but we do not want to suffer while you're doing it. These are not the duties of the project managers. It is you who is managing the reputation of Lagos. because that is the exact requirement of strategic PR in a golden era, in a golden age era. Indeed, the golden era of strategic PR is here. It's not coming. It's here. The question is, as professional, are we ready? Because communication creates awareness, but strategy creates influence. If you want to create influence in your place of work, you have to go beyond taking information that we already processed and sharing them out and amplifying them. That is not your work anymore. Yours is to make sure that the point where reputation loses its value is the place where you are found. Proactive, intentional. Because reputation creates value and trust creates enduring prosperity, whether for business or for governance. Thank you very much for listening to me. I hope it's been a pleasurable few minutes with you. Thank you so much, NIPR, for inviting me. NIPR Lagos for inviting me.
Thank you very much, Mr. Odion. You have done very good justice to this topic, and we are very delighted and we appreciate it of your time and effort on this assignment. On behalf of the entire members of NIPR, I'm saying thank you so much. We appreciate you. You can see all the virtual clapping pouring on the screen. At this time, we will give room for questions. If you have questions to ask, you may just please indicate by raising your virtual hand. I will crave your indulgence to please speak for not more than 1 minute. If you have to speak, please. Just go straight to the question so that we can save time.
Yes, so can I go?
Okay, please speak.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Odion. Thank you. I mean, this is quite thought-provoking. I'm just watching and I'm just saying, oh, I just wish that we could bring, one of the cases you brought Lagos, those who manages the reputation of the Lagos state to us. And my question is, you're Nigerian and you understand the dynamics of Nigerian environment and how we do not pay attention to what ought to be paid attention. How do you think we should, go to ensure that these people listen to what is the best global practices of PR, especially in managing reputation? Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, am I taking the question?
Let's see if there are other questions so that you can take them together.
That's fine.
Any other question?
Yes, sir. Olalekan Lagunju, sir. Olagunju from Crawford University, sir. Thank you very much, sir, our facilitator. Please, sir, I would like you, how do we help government? Some of us that were close to government on good governance, not that we can't control them on what to do. That's one. But you are now telling us that we should move from our comfort zone now to area, we can say panic zone for us in order to make sure good governance reach our people. You talk about ethics and consideration in that one. That's for the good. And for the conglomerates we have in Nigeria, I don't want to mention their name. Their products are on eyesight for a common man to cope or to live in Nigeria. Please kindly help us address that area, sir. With due respect.
Thank you very much, sir, for that. Any other question?
Please, can he stop sharing so we can see properly since it's finished?
Okay. Thank you, Madam Kechi, for drawing our attention to that. Mr. Abdulaziz.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you very much for presenter for that wonderful presentation. I want you to speak more. You alluded earlier about to the issue of spin and our and craftsmanship and diligence in craftsmanship in crafting stories. So I'd like you to speak more about that, especially when we have to deal with CEOs who think that to be out there is to cover up and to sometimes to lie or to say untruths about the business, and for them that is essentially what your job is. So how do you go about convincing those kind of CEOs, for instance, that indeed our business is not about that? Thank you very much.
Okay, Mr. Abbas Abolari.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Odion, for your class. That was really, really engaging. Also, my question tilts towards social media. During your lecture per se, you made a lot of allowing to social media, which is here to stay. Now, my question is this. Has this digital media created a new golden era, or is simply a noisier one? So much noise out there and all that. And this might dovetail into one of your points where you talked about information overload and all that. So really, do you think that digital media, has created a golden age, has helped, PR to create this, to fall into this golden age era, or just made it more noisier? Thank you, sir.
Okay, can we have speakers speak to these questions at this time, so that if there are still further questions, we can take them in another batch. Please.
Right. Thank you all for very, very, very important questions. I like them all. How do you get your principals, whether you're working in corporations or corporate or government, for your principal to listen? So first, I'll take myself as an example. Once you are onboarding us as an agency, we tell you beforehand that we do two things. One, that we practice ethical PR. And two, that we will not lie for you. And the reason for that is because we understand that the best PR is built on integrity. So anybody that is asking you to build PR on lies is actually, first of all, destroying your career and also helping you build something that you will not learn from. And because PR is ever evolving, it's converging across marketing, across digital, you're not going to learn anything because you will not confront the truth. And so I think that the bosses have not asked us to be afraid. We are the one afraid. We are afraid for our jobs. We are afraid to take. But how do others who also control ethical exposure deal with their job? The lawyers, the finance. You're not going to tell an ICANN chartered accountant or a financial expert to lie about profit, because he knows what it means. Same for the lawyer. So why is ours different? Are we not also of same professional consultancy? If we do not uphold that profession as one that is demanding the respect of boardrooms, we will consistently be placed beneath strong decision making. It is when you are able to stand as a professional and stand on the test of strong decision making. Look, leadership is strictly about decision making along the right lines of ethics and stakeholder value. So you do not want to erode stakeholder value. I want to uphold ethics. So if you want to play in the sphere of leadership, but you're afraid to take this, then you're not qualified to be in the room, because that is the only thing you bring to the table. Spin versus craftsmanship. I actually didn't want you, I don't even use the word spin. The most you can do is slant. Spin is 1984. And I think that was Michael Jackson's era of best music. That's gone, right? Even when you try to deviate, people, social media can see you. And because on social media, there are people who are extremely intelligent, who can actually spot your lies, who can actually spot your moves. And once they do, they win the trust. And so anything they say about you, they can do a trade of, here is why you lied. Look at your body language. Look at this. Look at the facts. This is the research I have. This is the secret playbook I have. And then you look stupid, and then you can't even disparage their reputation. People will trust them because, remember, already, as a rule, this generation is not trusting corporations, media, and these institutions as we know them. So if you play into that by trying to lie, you haven't done yourself any favor. Upholding your professionalism in this golden era is what brings you respect, not actually running away from it. When someone tells you to go and lie, and you lie, they think you're a more boy. When someone asks you to lie, and you stand up, and you come up with a more respectful position that makes sense for the organization, they begin to think. When they wake up and they are panting, you call you because they know you give a counsel that can give them the right pathway to solution. How can you convince your principal about ethics? Again, I insist, by being forthright as a professional in itself. So if clearly I say, sorry, we can't lie, at this point we have to apologize. At this point, somebody has to resign. At this point, somebody has to take the fall. You have to, because that is what governance and ethics means. And we think that, oh, down the road, when we take this path, there is a point where there is an El Dorado. There is none. We have lied for how many years of our independence, and it hasn't taken us anywhere. And we are a laughingstock of countries that we are better than. I took my team to, we were in Cotonou the other day, and we are not close anymore in terms of infrastructure and social behavior. I was at the beach. I wasn't scared that I'll be harassed. I wasn't scared that I'm going to step on human waste. It was clean. It was civil. It was, why? Are they not human beings? What are we? Oh, we are Nigerians. We do the wrong things. We need to rethink that. Or what does the Nigerian standard mean? Is it jumping queues, jumping? Is it just, are we a poster child of doing stupid things? Or we are going to rise up and be human beings and be professional and be credible people? The choice is ours to lead, and the golden era to do that. Because now this is the time where they are listening more. And that brings me to social media. You said, did social media create a golden era, or did the noise just simply created attention? No, because social media is not just about noise. It's also driving all sort of nuances and uprising. It could be Olodo uprising, it could be other social uprising, right? But it's driving uprising. Some of them are truly threatening equities, corporate equities, brand equities. And because of that, let me tell you why people sit in the boardroom. They sit in boardroom for two things. One, shareholder value, and two, anything that threatens that. So when you go to boardroom, who are the people they bring in? The lawyers. Why? Legal risk. Who are the people they bring in? Financials, because losing money drives away shareholders' confidence. Who are the people they bring in? Ethics, because they know that ethics and governance erodes new investments. Who are the people they bring in? Safety, right? And compliance. Why are they not bringing you in? because you also haven't raised the game, even though the risk is on the table in the boardroom. So when they bring, no, if you're in charge of safety, you're not going to tell them to do something that will blow up the investment. You're going to tell them the truth. So if it's true that reputation can blow up investment, same way an explosion can finish up a rig or a plane. So why are you afraid of saying it? I'm saying the new era of golden PR professional is an uprising of the uprights. I'll stop here now.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Odion. Can we have Madam Nkechi take the floor?
Thank you very much, sir, for giving me the opportunity. Once again, thank you, Mr. Odion. Spot on. I didn't expect anything less, you know. I just wanted to express my views. You know, I get very worried when professionals at this stage is still talking about spinning and protecting their bosses. You are not there to protect him. I mean, you are not a security officer. You are there to actually make sure that all he does, he's creating value and making impact. And so today we are talking of message framing, okay? So if you are, the problem again, you know, when I hear people ask things about those spinning or no spinning, I hear fear. I hear fear. I remember it's on record. If you go to CBN or Nexim, you hear it. I was the corporate affairs manager of Nexim Bank. And we got an MD who wanted me to start fighting Central Bank because it was not in their good books. And Central Bank was our major financier. I resigned. I mean, I was not going to start doing that. I mean, that amounted to me spinning and telling lies and all that. I tried it for a few, I resigned. And today I'm better for it. So whether your principal wants you to spin or not, you must play ethical. And then the problem again is that most PR professionals, in fact, 70% of public relations professionals, they are not ready to work. Public relations is about research. Public relations is about knowledge. If you don't have research, if you don't have content, if you are not able to know what is going on around you, even go and study the Mexican statement definition of public relations, you will know that there's a lot of work to be done. And it is only when you are able to do that, that you are even able to frame your messages. Framing your messages means that you present information in a way that highlights all the relevant aspects without you distorting the facts. There are ways you put your information, your content, that even your principal will not know whether you are lying or you are not, because, but then again, you are telling the truth. So I want to advise us that this job that we do, you need boldness. Without boldness, you cannot get to the place where people like Odion, Jaye, YBO, and the rest are. It's not something, you don't have to be afraid of your principal, because you are there to build reputation, to create image, raise awareness, and you can only do that when you work with the facts. Thank you.
Thank you very much, fellow Madam Nkechi, for adding those perspectives. Mr. Odion, we want to wrap it up with some further comments.
Yes, thank you, President, PR Chairman, for the additional resource from you. And thank you for the kind words. Where we have seen a lot of reputational issues is around government and governance. And here's what I'm going to advise you. There's a reason why I showed you the graph or the data sets of how the business of PR is growing. That is because the people with the biggest reputation issues are throwing budget at it. So if you are managing, you're a spokesperson for a governor, how many agencies are you paying on retainer to ensure that? Because an agency that is worth its salt will tell you the truth. An agency that is worth its salt will give you strategy that wins you trust. We tell you infrastructure you need to pay attention to. Not how many press releases we wrote today, because the truth is, even journalists know that there's press release spamming, right? Not whether the governor cut a ribbon today or we needed to clap for them. No. So if you are a government corporation or a spokesperson for the office of a governor or any subnational or an agency that has a strong both service delivery touch point or infrastructure touch point, get an agency and align with the world. The world is paying professionals to get them to get trust, because trust is real fundamental equity that you can use. So if you're not investing in trust, and I will tell you why I keep saying agency. One, because it's selfish. I run an agency and I want to make more money. But that is also not the truth. But because agency is outside of your emotional comfort zone. So there are things that my client will panic because the whole emotional charade that is going on in their own space needs to be pushed to me. As a consultant, I cannot be emotional with my decision making and my advisory because they are paid for. So I cannot lie, right? And so I counter the emotional stance all the time. And every time that our advisory has stood the test of time. Because we're not reacting by emotions, we are reacting by evidence, data, and research. So if tomorrow we are not the biggest, we don't have the biggest agency in Africa, it's because the biggest corporations that have the biggest reputational issues are refusing to take the right thing. They are refusing to pay for it. You need to pay. That's exactly why we moved from 60 billion and we are heading to 161 billion by 2021. Are we going to be part of that drive? They are not throwing money at us. They are throwing money at us developing professionals to build a reputational, strong country. So that an uneducated imp in South Africa would not be using us as an example of a failed state. Because every time I hear that, I'm always angry. On that note, I say thank you very much for listening to me. And thank you, Mr. Chairman, for inviting me. And I hope everyone had enjoyed the few minutes I have shared with you this evening. I've enjoyed it thoroughly.
Mr. Odion, I can assure you on behalf of all members that we all enjoyed your time with us. And